First off, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Waharakak Wadash. And this is Brother Shalimah coming at you guys with a lesson. The lesson is called The First Death, Adamah wa Nach, which is Adam and Noah. And I'm going to start off in Genesis 2:1. Shalom, Yashrallah. Genesis 2:1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, Yahweh ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Yahweh blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which the Most High created and made. Verse 7. And the Lord Yahweh formed a man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord Yahweh planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Verse 9. And out of the ground made the Lord Yahweh to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Verse 15. And the Lord Yahweh took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And the Lord Yahweh commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayst freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge, of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. And the Lord Yahweh said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. And out of the ground the Lord Yahweh formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. Verse 21. And the Lord Yahweh caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord Yahweh had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. So it says right here, verse 7, and the Lord Yahweh formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So from there, to give you a precept to show you what the breath of life is, I'm going to go to Wisdom of Solomon, verse 7, verse 24, and it reads, for wisdom is more moving than any motion, and she passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness, for she is the breath of the power of the Most High. So wisdom is what the Most High breathed into Adam in order to make him alive. And a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty, therefore can no defiled thing fall into her. And then I want to read Wisdom of Solomon 10:1. She preserved the firstborn father of the world that was created alone, and brought him out of his fall, and gave him power to rule all things. So wisdom is what put Adam in the status that he was in. Ecclesiasticus, verse 49. Alright, so this is Sirach 49:16. Shem and Seth were in great honor among men, and so was Adam above every living thing in the creation. And so was Adam above every living thing in the creation. Okay, so from there, I'm going to go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah 31, I think. It might be Isaiah. Oh no, it's Ezekiel. Ezekiel 31. Ezekiel 31 and verse 3. Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches. Now this is a parable, because on one hand it is talking about the Assyrian, but at the same time it's talking about Adam. because Assyria was in the same location where the Garden of Eden is, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, the Assyrian who was a cedar in Lebanon is talking about Adam. Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches and with a shadowing shroud and of a high stature. And his top was among the thick boughs. The waters made him great, the deep set him up on high, with her rivers running round about his plants, and sent out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field. So it's talking about wisdom is flowing onto Adam and to all the other nations. Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long because of the multitude of waters when he shot forth. All the fowls of heaven made their nest in his boughs, and under his branches did all beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwell all great nations. Thus was he fair in his greatness, and the length of his branches, for his root was by great waters. The cedars in the garden of the Most High could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of the Most High was like unto him in his beauty. I made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of the Most High envied him. So when it's talking about trees, it's actually talking about men. So let me get that real quick. That's going to be Mark 8:22, Lord willing. Mark 8:22. And it says, and he cometh to Bethsaida, and they bring a blind man unto him, and besought him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and led him out of the town. And when he had spat on his eyes, he put his hands upon him, and he asked him if he saw aught. And he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking. So men in the Bible are parabolically referred to as trees. After that, he put his hands again upon his eyes and made him look up, and he was restored and saw every man clearly. So from there, I think I'm going to go back to Genesis, the 3rd chapter and the 1st verse. So, that's just like a quick insight on Adam, a deeper look into like what Genesis is actually saying, the breath of life, what Adam, his actual status was. Adam was a king on the earth, like the same stead that Yahushua is going to be in when he returns. That's the stead that Adam was in back then. Genesis 3 and verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord Yahweh had made. So from there, because it's talking about the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. And if you look at Christian doctrine, they'll tell you that that's an actual serpent. But that's not true. So from there, I'm going to go to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 3 and verse 18. I said in my heart concerning the state of the sons of men, I said in my heart concerning the state of the sons of men, that the Most High might manifest them, that they might see that they themselves are beasts. For that which befalleth the sons of men befalleth beasts. Even one thing befalleth them, as the one dieth, so dieth the other. Yea, they have all one breath, so that a man have no preeminence above a beast, for all is vanity. So I said in my heart concerning the state of the sons of men, that the Most High might manifest them, that they might see that they themselves are beasts. So man is a beast. So when it's talking about more subtle than any beast of the field, it's talking about this was a man who was more subtle than any other beast out there or any other man out there. Let me get Psalms 49. Psalms 49 and 12. Nevertheless, man being in honor abideth not. He is like the beasts that perish. Verse 20. Man that is in honor and understandeth not is like the beast that perish. So man is a beast if you don't have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So from there, I'm going to go back to... I could go to Ezekiel, I think it's 27. I'm going to go there. No, I'll wait. Genesis 3 and verse... Okay. Genesis 3 and verse 1 again. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord Yahweh had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath the Most High said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Most High hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest ye die. So she's talking about the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So when it's talking about trees again, it's talking about a man. It's talking about a man who bears fruit, and you can partake of his fruit or his knowledge or his philosophies. His you know, like, I guess like his like outcome or something like that. So from there, I think I'm gonna go to, let me see, because I want to give an understanding on what the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is. Like, from my understanding, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is really the knowledge of the flesh, because the only reason we follow after corruption is because we are in this flesh. The only reason we follow after sin is because we are in sinful flesh. So from there, I'm gonna go to Wisdom of Solomon, 14 and verse 12. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life. So really, like an idol is just a false god. So Adam and Eve were brought into subjection through idolatry. So, but what was that idol that they were following after? The idol that they were caught up with is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is the same tree, the same fruit that is causing death on the earth up until now. And the reason why we die is because we are in the flesh. So the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is the flesh, and the fruit of it, which is vanity and death. Now, let me go to Ecclesiasticus. The 10th chapter and the 12th verse. The beginning of pride is when one departed from the Most High, and his heart is turned away from his Maker. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that hath it shall pour out abomination, and therefore the Lord brought upon them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly. So pride is it's the opposite of faith, because faith is trusting in the Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, trusting in the Lord. And pride is trusting in your own flesh, in your own self-will, the will of yourself, So pride, spiritual fornication, being turned aside unto vanity, turned aside unto something that does not profit, turned aside unto something false, a lie. Because the serpent was subtle enough to deceive Eve into believing that that will make her a god or make her powerful. But the only thing that makes you powerful is Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So Genesis 3. Genesis 3 and verse 4. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. For the Most High doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open. For the Most High doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So, okay, so now that reminds me of a precept. I'm gonna go to Psalms, because he said that by eating the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it will make you a god. And like it will give you understanding that Adam, because Adam didn't know what evil was at the time. He didn't know like he knew what he shouldn't do, but he didn't know what it was like to experience evil, corruption, and death, because he was a mortal. I'm gonna prove that too. This is Psalms 82 in verse 6. I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. So the Most High said we are gods. We were created as gods, so we didn't need to eat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil to be gods. But verse 7, but ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. Why? From partaking of that philosophy, or of that, I don't know, that reality, because the flesh is sin, you know, and I really wouldn't say it's a philosophy, but out of Adam being brought into subjection under sin, the flesh comes with its own philosophies. It comes with its own thought patterns, you know. So from there, I want to go to Luke, the 3rd chapter. Because Adam didn't become a god when he ate the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam didn't become a god when he was brought in subjection under the flesh. He really became a mortal man, which is worse than what he was. Luke 3:38, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, and Adam, which was the son of God. So Adam was a god at the time because he was the son of the Most High. From there, I'm going to go to Wisdom of Solomon 2 and verse 23. Wisdom of Solomon 2 and verse 23. For the Most High created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity. Genesis 1 and 26 and 27. So Adam was immortal. 24. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that do hold of his side do find it. So the other nations, all the trees of the Most High that were in the Garden of Eden did envy Adam. And that devil, that old dragon, he envied Adam. So they used him because he was so subtle, and the seed and the spiritual demon Satan was in him. So they used him to overthrow Adam through Eve. So let me go back to Genesis 3. Okay, Genesis 3 and verse 6. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. And she took the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of the Lord. Okay, so, let me slow down a little bit, because it's showing you that it wasn't like actual like mango or like apple like they say it is. It was talking about something that was pertaining to knowledge, because it was a fruit desired to be made, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. So that man, that serpent that was there, he was a man to be desired to make one wise. That's why Eve goes after Esau today, because he's a tree to be desired to make one wise, so called. But the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, neither the prudence, or neither the counsel of sinners prudence. Verse 7, and the eyes of them were both open, and the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. So their eyes were open to what wickedness is, what sin is. Like Adam seen what the other nations were doing when he was conquering them, and he went to till and to keep the Garden of Eden, to dress it and to keep it. But he didn't know what it was like for first-hand experience to experience that, because from the beginning he was made to be perfect. And they sewed them fig leaves together and made aprons. So they took on the wisdom of the other nations in order to cover their sin, their nakedness. I might be able to find a precept, but I don't want to go about trying to find it, because I don't know off top, and I don't have it written down. So this is verse 8. Because nakedness is really when you're in sin. When you're naked, I can get one precept. I just remember it. Revelation 3 and verse 18. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thy eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. So he's talking about clothe yourself with the truth, that you won't be in sin, you won't be naked. Genesis 3 and verse 8. And they heard the voice of the Lord Yahweh walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord Yahweh amongst the trees of the garden. So the other man of Adam's nation, the Adamites, which were the sons of God on the earth, they had other men that knew the Most High amongst their nation as well as Adam. And so when Adam and Eve went off, they went to find them and went to rebuke them. Hid themselves from them, from the presence of the Most High. Because the prophets are the voice of the Most High, and the prophets have been since the beginning. Verse 9. And the Lord Yahweh called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? And the man said, The woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. So, from there, I'm going to get two precepts. Genesis 20, I'm talking about this. Ecclesiasticus 25 and 24. Of the woman came the beginning of sin, and through her we all die. Ooh, give the water no passage, neither a wicked woman liberty to get abroad. So Adam obviously wasn't watching Eve, what she was doing, because why was she over there talking to that devil? And of the woman came the beginning of sin, and through her we all die. First Timothy 2 and verse 11. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, but I suffer not a woman to teach, which she tasted of the fruit and she gave it to her husband and he did eat with her. So she taught this man some stuff. So he said, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, but I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. For Adam was first formed, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing if they continue in faith, in charity, and holiness with sobriety. So from there, I'm going to go back to Genesis, the 3rd chapter again. Genesis 3 and verse 13. And the Lord Yahweh said unto the woman, what is it that thou hast done? And the Lord said, and the woman said, Shlaki Yahweh, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And the Lord Yahweh said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field, and upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. So the serpent is cursed above all beasts of the field, because other nations are cursed. You got Ham, Canaan is cursed. That's a cursed seed. You can read about that in Wisdom of Solomon in Genesis the 9th chapter. Who else is cursed? Moab and Ammon are cursed because of incest, because Lot's 2 daughters raped him, and they had a seed through him. And I guess it. But and we are under curses right now. But Esau, the so-called white man, the serpent, the devil that the Bible speaks of, is more cursed than any beast of the field. No pigmentation, the spiritual demon Satan inside of him. He's the man of sin, the man of perdition, the son of perdition. So Esau is cursed above all beasts of the field, and upon their belly shall they go, and they shall eat dust all the days of their life. Esau, all he can partake of is the tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. All he can partake of is the knowledge of the flesh. He can't see anything beyond that. That's why in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is a lie. That's why she was deceived through it. So, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. You can read about that in Revelation the 12th chapter, how you had the woman with the crown of 12 stars and the sun and moon under her feet. That's talking about the nation of Israel, which is likened unto a comely and delicate woman. Jeremiah 6:2. And and then she was ready to prepare to bear a man child that should rule all nations with a rod of iron. And before she could bear it, the dragon was trying to I'm gonna read that one quick, for the quick time, for the one time. All right. Revelation 12:1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars, and she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. So that same description is given for the Roman Empire, which is the Edomites ruled the Roman Empire, and still do today. The beast and the whore riding upon it. So, and she being with child, travailed in birth and pain to be delivered. So she's getting ready to give birth to Yahweh Shai. So verse 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast into the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto the Most High into his throne. So the three stars that were knocked down was Benjamin, Levi, and Judah, the southern kingdom, and they were knocked down during 70 A.D. by the Roman Empire, the dragon, and the child being caught up to the Most High in his throne, that's Yahweh Shai, and he was given dominion over all things. So let me go to Genesis 3:1, and you can also see the enmity between. I'm gonna read that. This is also an enmity between thy seed and her seed. Genesis 25 and 21. I'm sorry, 22. I'm sorry, 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahweh, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So Jacob and Esau are fighting within Rebekah, the enmity. And the one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after this came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bore them. So, and I could read Genesis 27 and 41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father had blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. So, and you can even go back to Cain and Abel, where it was enmity between thy seed and her seed, because Cain was of that wicked one. He was of the spiritual demon Satan. He wasn't of Adam, like Abel was. Okay, nickel hurting. All right, so this is verse 16. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception, and sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed the ground for thy sake, and sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also, and thistles shall it bring forth to thee. And thou shalt eat the herb of the field, and in the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord Yahweh make coats of skin, and clothe them. And the Lord Yahweh said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord Yahweh sent him forth from the garden of Eden, to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword was turned every way, to keep the way of the tree of life. So They were driven out of the Garden of Eden, out of everlasting life, and out of the paradise into hell, which we dwelling in now. And like it says right here, so he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So like you can't go to where the Garden of Eden was and see a cherubim turning every which way to keep the way of the tree of life. So what was it that was keeping Adam from accessing the tree of life? So first I want to go to show you what the tree of life is, which it ain't nothing deep. It's real simple, to be honest. It's the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Most High. But how do you access that? John chapter 14. In verse 6. Yahushua saith unto him, I am the way to the kingdom, the truth, and the life, everlasting life, the tree of the knowledge of, tree of life, Slakia. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Okay, so back to Genesis. Actually, let me go to Ezekiel. So Ezekiel 28 and verse 12. Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. So this is also a parable. It's talking about the king of Tyrus, which is Tyre and Zidon, an ancient Canaanite nation, Philistines. And it's also talking about, I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to let it be known through the scriptures. Ezekiel 28 and 13. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of the Most High. Every precious stone was thy covering. The sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of the Most High. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Verse 15. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of Yahweh. I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. So the king of Tyrus, or the spiritual demon Satan, is the covering cast to keep you away from the tree of life. That anointed cherub that covereth. And like even back in the Holy Land, the Canaanites were the reason why we went off so hard, because we were fornicating, spiritually fornicating with them. So let me see. From there, I want to go to Job, because it says it was a flaming sword turning every which way. Like, and today Esau is playing all these characteristics. He the spiritual demon Satan on the earth. This is Job 2 and verse 1. Again, there was a day when the sons of the Most High came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth and walking up and down it. So Satan is that flaming sword which turns every which way. Let me see. Genesis 3 and verse 24. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So what's keeping the 2/3 from getting the tree of life? Satan is. So, all right, so that almost covers the first death. I'm going to read 2nd Ezra. Second Ezra 3 and verse 3. Second Ezra 3 and verse 3. I'm gonna start with verse 5. I'm sorry, 4. O Lord, who bears rule, thou spokest at the beginning when thou didst plant the earth, and that thyself alone, and that thyself alone, and commandest the people, and gavest a body unto Adam without soul, which was the workmanship of thy hands, and didst breathe into him the breath of life, and he was made living before thee. And thou leddest him into paradise, which thy right hand had planted, Yahweh, before ever the earth came forward. And unto him thou gavest commandment to love thy way, which he transgressed, and immediately thou appointest death in him and in his generations, of whom came nations, tribes, peoples, and kindreds out of number. And every people walked after their own will, and did wonderful things before thee, and despised thy commandments. And again, in process of time, thou destroyest, or thou broughtest the flood upon those that dwell in the world, and destroyest them. And it came to pass in every of them that as death was to Adam, so was the flood to these. Nevertheless, one of them thou leftest, namely Noah with his household, of whom came all righteous men. So the flood is a direct result of Adam going off, because, sin reigned through Adam. So let me I'm about to go into Nach, or Noah. Genesis 6 and verse 1. Genesis 6 and verse 1. And it came to pass, when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, and the sons of Yahweh saw the daughters of man that they were fair, that they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. So, what this is saying right here, because of the sons of God, which are the Israelites, Adam was the son of God, the Adamites. So it's saying that because we were going off and marrying women of other nations, that brought more death to us, because we went from 900 years, 1,000 years, eternity, immortality, down to 900 years, down to 120 years because of sin. So a major sin that we commit is when we deal with these other nations' women. Look at Solomon. The whole nation of Israel split apart, and all our fall came from that, because Solomon was dealing with other women. Through the woman came the beginning of sin, and through her we all die. So let me see. This is verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days. Also after that, when the sons of Yahweh came unto the daughters of man, they bore children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Verse 5. And Yahweh saw the wickedness of man was great. Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented Yahweh that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for repented me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generations. And Noah walked with the Most High, and Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth. The earth also was corrupt before the Most High, and the earth was filled with violence. And Yahweh looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And Yahweh said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth, make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch. So, one thing I'm going to touch on, which is going to be for a further a later lesson. Exodus 2 and verse 3. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch. An ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch. So that sounds very familiar. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch. So it's kind of spiritual, really. It's a similitude, or like a parallel. And then this is verse 10. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water. So if you look, like the flood came by water. The flood, death came by water. But check this out. Exodus 14 and 15. And the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. But lift thou up thy rod, and stretch out thy hand over the sea, and divide it, and the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. So, verse 22. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. So the same way how life was saved through an ark, and like almost like Nach was almost drawn out of water, you know, the same way Moses was with the ark of bulrushes, daubed about with slime and pitch, you know. So like it's like a direct parallel between Noah and Moses. Now let me go back to Genesis. All right, so this is Genesis 7. And 23. I'm going to start with 21. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle and of beasts and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land, died. Of every living substance was destroyed. And every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowls of the heaven. And they were destroyed from the earth, and Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. So from there, I'm about to go to Job 22 and verse 15. Job 22 and verse 15. Hast thou marked the old way which wicked men have trodden, which were cut down out of time, whose foundation was overflowed with the flood, which said unto the Most High, depart from us, and what can the Almighty do for them? Yet he filled their houses with good things, but the counsel of the wicked is far from me. The righteous see it and are glad, and the innocent laugh them to scorn. Whereas our substance is not cut down, but the remnant of them the fire consumeth. And then from there, let me go to Sirach. So the first death was through water. And like the first covenant is was almost through water too. Like for one, Moses was drawn out of water, who was the mediator of the first covenant. Two, we passed through the Red Sea. And then if you look at what John the Baptist was doing before Yahushua came on the scene completely, he was baptizing the nation of Israel. So all of that was through water. So 2 Peter 2 and verse 5. And spare not the old world, but save Noah, the eighth person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly. So from there, Ecclesiasticus 44, chapter 44 and verse 17. Verse 17, Noah was found perfect and righteous in the time of wrath. He was taken in exchange for the world. Therefore was he left as a remnant unto the earth. When the flood came, an everlasting covenant was made with him, that all flesh shall perish no more by the flood. Dwadi Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So with that, I'm going to say call Laim, La Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Waharakak Wadash, Shalom Yashrala.